institution. I'm going to deliver education. That's the product people are paying for. I'm not going to skim something off and pay for research enterprise. There's some level of vulnerability there. Okay, this is part of the package. This one's interesting. It was a parent of children who were broadly in the stage of life where they're moving on from high school into college and beyond. One of the things that's very striking compared with my generation, and you all have your own ideas about what's happened in your lives and lives of people that you know. So when I went off to college, I basically lost the social network I had from high school, and I formed a new one based on college. And actually, in my case, when I left college, I largely lost the social network I had in college. But nevertheless, I retained some of that. Well, that's not happening anymore. So the way people are connected are able to communicate, they're carrying their social network forward from high school. Maybe they're adding to it. But the role of college is kind of uniquely, where people are forming longer-lasting ties. It's not really happening that way anymore. Another thing that's interesting is that these same technologies make it really easy for people to form social connections outside whatever institution they're associated with. So it's common now for people to have friends all over the place. Friends unquote, we can debate what the strength of these connections are, but undeniably they are there. And so if we think that college is essential as a way for people to be socialized, well, maybe not. And I'll have more to say about this later. Whoops. Okay, credentialing. So this is part of the package, right? In fact, if you look at many of our practices, you'd see that what we're doing is kind of using credentialing as a lever to kind of force people to do certain things, and not always. You might say, well, isn't that what it's all about? Well, yes, but we often use it as a way to force people to do things which really we're not having them do for intellectual reasons, but we're using it as a lever to get them to do things that we make money from, or that distributes enrollment in ways that satisfies some institutional goals. But this is also something that can be done differently, and in fact has been done differently for a long time. It'll be interesting to see whether we see further developments here, and again we'll have some specifics on this in a little bit. But University of London, for a long time, I think back to the days of the Empire, they've had a mode of operation where you can study wherever you want, but you get examined by the University of London, right? And so they'll certify you as being an educated person according to their lights, even though they didn't do the teaching. Interesting model. Another example, well, in the world of information and computing technology, there are lots and lots of certifications that people get, and these are done by examination. So you're not having to, you're separating the credentialing from the teaching is the point. So again, a deconstruction kind of a thing. Comment here about our credentialing. So there's a certain level of public and political outcry suggesting that our credentials aren't actually as meaningful as they might be, because it's kind of nebulous just what it is, that what attributes someone has to have in order to be credentialed. The part that's obvious is they have to have paid for a certain number of credit hours. Okay, that part's clear, right? But what does it mean beyond that? Okay, because you can say, outside the university, nobody cares how many credit hours you paid for, but they should care, perhaps, what you actually know. Well, and so people have been trying to put pressure on the university to actually do assessment of what people learn in college. And the point, the sort of sharp point of this is what's called general education assessment. And I know from having involved in it that we are institutionally extremely resistant to this idea. And as I'm commenting there, it seems to me it's really hard to know what the right move is. So on the one hand, if we continue to resist this, then we may be outflanked by institutions that don't resist it and are willing to say, you know what, if you come and study with us, we'll actually have a substantial assessment that people can point to that's really based on something. And people may feel that that's worth something, and if we don't offer it and someone else does, then we can be hurt by that. But on the other hand, it's the case, and I think at some level, I think this is kind of what's motivating us. The feeling kind of is, well, if we make what we're doing too well defined, then it's going to be easy for somebody else to do it better, right? But if we keep it kind of vague what it is that we're doing, then it's not so easy for somebody to compete with us. So there are risks both ways. This one's in parentheses because, sadly, I included it in the package, but it's really not in the package anymore. Okay, and this is one of those things, at least speaking for myself, I didn't notice this when it happened, but I went to a now defunct conference where somebody who's a professional academic advisor gave a talk in which he kind of pointed out that advising used to be talking to somebody who would help you make decisions about how to shape your interests and what might prepare you for certain careers that you might be interested in, and things like that. Well, that's not what academic advising is anymore. We're still using the term, but what it is the degree requirements. That's what it's about. Okay? And one of the things also that's happened that's relevant here is that as recently as when I came to the university 25 years ago, that recently, the prevailing idea was faculty would advise students. Okay? And actually, I served on a committee, which was a real eye-opener for me as a young faculty member, in which what instigated the formation of the committee was that students were having a lot of trouble with the requirements, understanding what they were. I naively said, why don't we simplify the requirements? Response, well, you don't quite understand. The reason we have these requirements is to control enrollments, okay, and to make sure that each department gets its due share of credit hours. The requirements aren't about really what the students are learning. It's about how we divvy them up among ourselves. In order to do that, they're going to have a certain level of complexity. Solution, let's spend a boatload of money hiring professional academic advisors. So again, we've abandoned the notion that the role of faculty is to mentor students. We said, well, we're not going to actually do mentoring in any systematic way. We're going to have people that help people navigate the requirements, and that's it. So it's not like somebody else has taken this away from it. We've taken it away from ourselves. And again, remember, that's one of the entries on Noam's list of what we need to do if we're going to bring value. This is one that's actually not been part of the University of Colorado package. I happened to be looking at University of Wisconsin yesterday for some reason and came upon this, that University of Wisconsin has as part of its base values, they're better words, more inspiring words, but being relevant to every household in the state. Okay? We don't have that, as far as I know, we never have. Colorado State still has an extension kind of thing, but you sort of see that, right? So part of the deal that used to exist around higher ed was that at least some higher ed institutions really had a service commitment beyond, what happened on campus. And actually that's really been eroding, and in part it's been eroding because the constituencies eroded as well. Right? Farmers used to be a huge share of the population and enormously powerful politically. Well, not so much anymore, and as a result, this way that many universities, although not this one, used to sort of deliver value is kind of off the table. Okay, shifting from the package, let's look at other aspects of the pressure that we're under. So I don't know how much attention people are paying to this. I pay some attention to it, but even I am kind of shocked. Actually, Donna's been around something that I'll have some references to later. There's a futurist who's collected a lot of stuff on this, and the numbers that are in that source, which are consistent with the chart up there, that's showing the trend of college costs adjusted for inflation. It's not the raw cost. Adjusted for inflation over some interval, which I think is somewhere around 1980. It doesn't really matter what the baseline is. But anyway, from a certain baseline, college costs have gone up, corrected for inflation, 427%. Family income, adjusted for inflation over the same interval, has gone up 127%. Okay? So college costs are enormously outpacing sort of any measure of people's, any increase in people's ability to pay.